mentioned about livestock and also provide concerns about resilience of pastoral economy. There is sessional paper number 8 of 2012, which talks about strategies on climate resilience in ASO counties. And in the process should also be able to reduce some levels of inequalities between Kenya ASO counties and the rest part of the counties. So they should be at par. And out of that we have what we call the National Drought Management Authority, which has a responsibility of ensuring that drought does not become an emergency. And one of its key responsibility, which is supposed to achieve, is that by the year 2022, drought should have ended, more so becoming as an emergency other than what it is at present. But if you look at the situation now, you will find that the issue, the coal has not at the moment yet achieved much, and we are still having emergencies in terms of drought. So move on. The problem of the statement in this case, which I looked at, is that in a number of studies,
just take us through the objectives, research methodology,
yes,
results, and then conclusions. I think because you have about 5 minutes to present.
Yes, I hope you will spare me. That there is a significant problem in disseminating drought information into timely drought early response to stakeholders, and this has led to the increase of frequency and magnitude of drought disasters. This is supported by quite a number of authors there. And we are saying that the information which is disseminated has not received sufficient research attention despite its being available over different contexts. And therefore there is a need for scientific understanding of both the indigenous and also scientific knowledge on information disseminated for drought management. Go to objectives. I think objectives. I've given out, I think you can see them, and the aim is also there. There are two objectives which I looked at. Move on. Move on. Okay. So I've looked at quite a number of literature.
We may not require literature review. Just go to the results, discussion, and the conclusions. I think.
Okay, fine.
To save time.
Yes, but I just wanted to mention that there are quite a number of literature which was reviewed. Move on. The results is that based on the studies that I did, oh yeah, they are taking too long to look at that. If I have to use what I have, actually there are responses which have shown that dissemination of radio is very high, and also followed by television. And then there are also some other communication channels which are used by quite a number of researchers, like newspapers, seminars. We have academic forums And based on this, you will find that in our discussion that most of the pastoralists who responded to the questionnaire, though semi-literate, could understand the questions which were translated more so in Kiswahili. And like I've said before, radio, television, and mobile phones are the major scientific channels which have been used, more so for communication when it comes to dissemination of drought information. But what you also need to know is that in contract, traditional methods have been highly preferred by many pastoralists, especially those in remote areas where networks are not accessible. And this has also been mentioned in our challenge as one of the barriers which affect dissemination of drought information, whereby we say that it was established in the study that information which is disseminated scientifically in most of the time is unreliable, and it becomes very difficult for them at times to understand because of the language, and also it cannot be trusted by most of the pastoralists. And that's the reason why they will always go to the traditional methods. Among the recommendations that this study is making, because it's still going on, that there is a failure of scientific information which is unreliable and cannot be understood, and so because of that something has to be done over the same, whereby there should be translation of the same information when it comes to drought management, and also there is a need for a study of indigenous and scientific knowledge and how this can be incorporated into one when it comes to disseminating information for drought management. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to share with you. If we have any queries, I will invite members to respond over the same.
Thank you. 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Good afternoon. Yes, I just want to add a comment. Just a comment there. Maybe during the fighting, sir.
Yes.
If we could have done maybe using a given percentage, it would have been more meaningful. Because the minute you talk about 6, 8, we don't know what the percentage. As for the maybe in the future, we can just include the percentage.
Okay.
Professor Oho.
Thank you, Sala.
Thank you for the presentation. Whenever you talk about drought, you start touching our nerves.
Yes.
Because these are our areas of specialization.
Yes.
From the topic, you are looking on information dissemination. And as you are taking us through, I was wondering, what cycle of drought management did you look at? Yes. Because any drought management has got 4 cycles.
Yes.
Which specifically did you look at the preparedness all the way to the reconstruction? Because I believe they have different information for different cycles. And what percent, how much information are they given? In a nutshell, which cycle did you focus on among the 4 cycles of drought management? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ho, for that good question. Now, I would say that in my paper, I think there is a lot that I've shared. I think I sampled a total of 104 respondents, and it is based on that number that I happen to come up with some figures which you are seeing there. If you get some time, I think you can follow up over the same. Back to Professor Ho, I would say that I'm looking at information dissemination per se in terms of role right away from the first level of preparation to the last point of recovery, which is the last stage. And what I'm trying to mention is that most of the time there is always an assumption that right away from the beginning you can, based on what is being prepared, then the kind of preparation which has been laid down can be able to trigger a response to the particular people who may face this drought. But in this case, I'm also trying to point out that if you look at the study, you'll find that, of course, there is information which is generated more so in terms of preparation to a point of the time when you have to respond to that particular drought, which is the last point of response and recovery. But information should be integrated right away from the first stage up to the last one. I'm also saying that in the process of integrating this information, it should not just be information per se, but the kind of information which is used. For instance, I'll give an example of now, whereby information which was relayed to this drought which we are facing now, if you look at the study, they said that we will have flood, and so people should prepare for that. But instead what came out, or what is coming out, is right, which means people were, the kind of information which was not shared, which was shared, was misleading and wrong. And so we are saying that as far as we want to manage drought, then we should also focus on the information and properly disseminate this information to the respondents who might be vulnerable to this particular drought. If I'm not, I hope I've mentioned something which can convince you to some level. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I had something to ask.
Well.
Okay, just brief. Yeah, so the problem is that there is no right information to the people on the ground. Who are these people who are supposed to give information? The meteorologists or who? Did you capture that? Is there any other person who was supposed to give? If it is the right people, meteorologists, so, okay, you have discovered there is that poor. So you say, they are saying that there is drought in October, and there is no drought. Okay, sometimes they say there is flood, and there is no flood. So, in your research, what have you done about it? So what? Are you saying these people have no knowledge? So, then how will you change? How do you change the source? Because that is the problem. The problem is not the information there. The problem is the source. Why are they giving wrong information? What is the problem there? Because it's not about information. Yes, thank you.
So I think,
I wish to add something on that.
yes, yes.
For coming back, I would be very careful to say that
The information that was relayed is wrong. If you follow the updates, meteorological updates, they warned that this year we may have drought. as early as June, there was information disseminated that we are going to have suppressed rainfall during this period of time because of the sea surface temperatures and Indian Ocean dipole. It was clear, and this was to come. However, I want to join hands with him.
Yes.
As much as we have scientific knowledge, remember the Kenya Met who disseminate this information, they don't give specific area. They'll just say maybe northern Kenya, they'll say south part of Rift Valley, which is land. So they are not specific to a certain area. However, there's the issue of indigenous knowledge. That's very, very important. As much as we have meteorological giving us information, there's the issue of indigenous knowledge, which most of the pastoralists follow more than the predictions that were given by the government. So how did you capture the integration between the scientific knowledge and the indigenous knowledge, which they focus more rather than this? But it's good to be a bit careful on giving such a generalization that the Met is giving false information. Thank you.
Well, I would wish to, first of all, applaud Professor for that good remarks and conclusion about the indigenous information, which is heavily used. And I would have said that because of unreliability and trustworthiness of this information, there should be a way of merging, and I think that's how I ended, that we should merge. They should merge both indigenous knowledge and scientific. But I think they should also, a way should be also found in our, a way should be found on how to scientifically also validate the indigenous knowledge. Because you will find that this is based on maybe experience and beliefs, and you will find that we have variation of beliefs, maybe from one particular community to the other. I'm mentioning about this source because I think that's how it was reported in the media that there is contrary information which was released by the Kenya Meteorological Department over what we are having at present. And based on that, maybe I'll go and study further to see if that source was actually valid or not. But again, what I want to just mention is that as I finish, there is a need for us to study further because information had been there, but you find that still we have emergency. And for how long? Since 1960 up to present, will we have this emergency? Will we lose information every now and then? The component of information must come in strongly because that data is what is relied on to make prediction and also preparation. The last thing which I also wanted to mention over the same is that you will find that most of the mechanisms which have been put in place will always favor, I mean, information like generated by the National Drought Management Authority is the same information which is also acted on. And so if we have vested interest, then you may find it very difficult to actually control the situation at all. So we are also recommending that we should have, apart from the National Drought Management Authority, we should also have some other scientific studies over the same so that we can fight from a multidisciplinary approach. In this case, when I mentioned about drought, is Professor Hu and Masinda, I think, were the key researchers in this area of drought, which I'm building on the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lusala. I think next presenter we have is Mr. Vichanga, yeah, let's clap for him. Vichanga W. Nyaigoti, and is presenting on the role of indigenous languages in innovation and development, a case study of the Tana River linguistic situation. Thank you. Welcome. Let me sanitize.
Yeah.
You can stand here. Anasema kamera imekuficha.
Okay, I'm waiting for them to upload that. Meanwhile, I think I can start with the introduction. I would like to welcome you to my presentation, which is titled The Role of Indigenous Languages in Promoting Innovation and Sustainable Development, a case of the Tana River linguistic situation. My name is Nyaigoti Bichanga from the School of Arts and Social Sciences. Indigenous languages, as we know them, are very crucial. One, they act as a reservoir of knowledge, and they are also a mark of identity. And each one of us here at least speaks one indigenous language. And the knowledge about indigenous languages in Kenya, you find, is really has been brought into focus, because you'll find that not many of us can read and write in our respective indigenous languages. As we know it, indigenous languages, they promote cultural legacies. It is through the indigenous languages that the cultures are transmitted from one generation to another. And also indigenous languages promote interaction, especially among members who speak the same language. When we come to the Kenyan context, what the Ministry of Education recommends is that the Ministry of Education recommends that children who are under the age of 9 years, particularly in lower primary, they should be taught the language of the catchment area. So in that case, the language of the catchment area here refers to an indigenous language. And in Kenya, we have about 52 ethno-linguistic communities. That is as per the Minority Rights Group 2005, which posts that in Kenya we have 52 ethno-linguistic communities. In other words, we have 52 distinct indigenous languages. But many of these languages you'll find have not been researched and have not been widely documented. So the concern of the paper, of my paper here, is to investigate the role of indigenous languages in promoting innovation and the sustainable development, whereby I take the case of the Tana River linguistic situation. I would also endeavor in this paper also to look at some of the sociolinguistic indicators which shows that our indigenous languages are in constant contact and interaction with other surrounding languages. So this paper is part of an ongoing research, an ongoing sociolinguistic research based on the language contact situation in the Tana River County. I want to briefly give a brief background about the Tana River linguistic situation, whereby Tana River, as we know it,
is the county that is actually after the river. You are in Tana River. Some of you stay in the Tana River. Tana River hosts various Bantu and Cushitic speech communities. The dominant speech communities in Tana River here are two. We have the Pokomo and the Oruma. However, we have other, call them in quote, small communities or minority communities. One of them is called the Iluana, or what is popularly known as Malakote, which is now a specific language that I use as a case in point in studying the relationship between Tana River languages. So, other minority languages here include, we have the Wata, the Sanye, we have the Munyoyaya, we have the Dahalo, we have the Waridei, we have also others which are almost extinct, like we have the Bajuni and so on. Let me zero down to Iluana. Iluana is a name that refers to the people whom we call Malakote. Malakote is a derogatory term, meaning that it's a term that denigrates the people, and therefore a term that is neutral and does not have those negative connotations is Iluana. And from history, the term, if you look at Malakote, it means watu wenye mila kote, people who borrow from various cultures, means mila kote or marakote. You can find them everywhere, kira mahari, Marakote. So the Iluana, who are also popularly known as Marakote, are east coast of Bantus who occupy a 150-mile strip along the northern part of Tana River. In terms of history, there is a 3-part centuries of historical background, whereby one, the Marakote settled in Tana River County up to around 1600 AD. Initially, they came from a place known as Shungwaya. They moved and settled here. Between 1600 and 1875 AD, we had the Oruma. The Oruma actually moved and settled in Tana River around 1700, and because they were large in number, they overpowered the minority communities like Malakote or Iluana because of their military strength. The Somalis, from history, came actually and settled along the Tana River region around 1875. And actually the Somalis are the ones who pushed the Ormas to the, actually call it to the western parts of Tana River, and we have Malakote in between. We have the Pokomo at the southern part, and we have also Munyoyaya also on the northern part neighboring the Marakote. So in short, the Iluana community is surrounded by, we have the Pokomo southern part, we have Orma on the western part, we have the Munyoyaya, we have other communities like Waridei, we have Somali clans. We have a number of Somali clans living in Tana River County. Okay, in terms of research methodology, this paper here draws from a sample study that consisted of 100 respondents who were selected through purposive sampling and through also social networking strategies, whereby you use a friend of a friend. And this sample of 100 respondents were given a word list containing certain lexical items, certain vocabularies, to know what, let's say, the Iluanas call particular items in their native language. Also, questionnaires and interview schedules were administered. The study was also guided by two theories, one known as the domain theory, that is by Fisherman, 1964. We have also the mattress theory of 2009. The domain theory simply states who speaks what language, when, and where. So domain here refers to the context of language usage. They include, for example, the usage of the language at home, at school, the marketplace, at the office, communal functions, and also religious functions. So
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Okay, I may not now go deep into those theories. However, in terms of the findings, it was found out that the Luana speakers do not know, most of them do not know how to read and write in Luana. Why? Because of the problem of orthography, spelling, and this language is not taught even in school. But many of the Luana speakers can write and read in Kiswahili. And in terms of proficiency in other neighboring languages, it was found out that the elderly people are the ones who can converse in, for example, some can speak and understand Somali, some can speak and understand Pokomo, Orma, and so on. So it was found out the Luana language is restricted to the home domain because it's not used in school, even in market centers, because most of the regions here, here in the northern part of Tana River, we have so many other communities. So Luana is not used even in the market centers when doing business, buying things, and so on. So in terms of the sociolinguistic aspects, it was found out that Luana has borrowed heavily from other neighboring languages, particularly the Orma and the Pokomo. Remember, as I said initially, the Orma and the Pokomo are the two dominant languages in the Tana River region. So I have some findings that shows across the linguistic lexical relationship among Tana River languages to show the close relationship between the words that cut across, for example, among the Luana speakers, the Pokomo, and Orma speakers. The other sociolinguistic aspect that the study found out is a case of what we call lexico transfer. Lexico transfer is a case whereby a language copies certain grammatical items from a certain language. For example, it was found out that Luana has copied the plural noun system from the Orma. Whereby, you know, I said Luana is a Bantu language. And in Bantu, we have the class system, what we call the Ngeli, okay? And we expect Luana, being a Bantu language, to follow the noun class system that we know. For example, in Luana, the word for man is known as molome. Molome. I think some of you who are Bantus know, molome means man, mutu. The plural for that in Luana, you expect it to be like Walome, but that is not the case. It is Mwali, a different morphological structure. This kind of singular, plural noun system has been borrowed from the Orma, which is a Cushitic language, because with them we don't have the case of, let's say, like now when we used to talk of the Muwa, like Muwa. Of course, that one has changed nowadays. So Luana has actually copied some grammatical structures from the other languages like the Orma. There was also the notion of code switching, which was quite noticeable among the Luana speakers, especially the young. They switch a lot. Because most of them are proficient in Kiswahili, they mix Luana and the Kiswahili, even when they are having conversations in the family gatherings, when they are taking dinner, and so on. So the question is, what are now the implications of some of those sociolinguistic aspects? The findings here illustrate that there is linguistic blending, linguistic integration, whereby some language structures, let's say in Luana, are combined with the language structures, for example, from Orma. That brings in the issue of inter-community harmony, cohesion, integration. And you will find later on that one also has led to intermarriage, cross-border business. Meaning that if these languages are developed, then we can have what we call increased innovation and sustainable development, especially in the Tana River region, which actually is mainly semi-arid. So we also find there is a considerable level of bilingualism and multilingualism, whereby some speakers speak more than 2 languages. Also, another finding is that indigenous languages contribute a lot in terms of civic responsibility, democracy. When people know how to speak, how to read and communicate in their language, there can be raised awareness. The people can participate more actively, maybe during voting. Issues to do with the rigging, voter intimidation, bribery can be overcome if people are conversant with their indigenous language. Also, indigenous languages can promote what we call technological development, whereby science and technology can be acquired and better understood if these native languages, if these indigenous languages like Ilwana are developed. However, we have a number of challenges facing the development of indigenous language, one of them being orthographic inadequacy, meaning that there is a lack of written literature, lack of maybe standard spelling. Also, the second problem is the multiplicity of languages. As I've said, some are dominant, some are minority.
Take us to
Okay,
conclusion.
so in terms of the conclusion and the recommendation, okay, this paper argues that indigenous languages here play a key role in promoting innovation and sustainable development. It also observes that there has been cultural and linguistic tolerance among Tana River speech communities, as we have seen the case of Ilwana and other neighboring languages, which promotes what we call regional cohesion. However, this language contact situation has other disadvantages whereby some languages have been relegated to the periphery to the point that they are not even taught in school. There are no radio stations. There are no even TV stations that broadcast in those languages. So in this case, the paper recommends that indigenous languages, which are quite a number in Tana River, most of them which are minorities, they need to be adequately studied. They need to be documented so that such languages now can be used to promote what we call innovation and sustainable development. So thank you so much. That marks the end of this, my presentation.
Thank you. Questions and answers. We have 5 minutes for that. Madam Lucy, I think someone to give us.
Good afternoon. Okay, mine is not a question, but I just wanted to inform the speaker that the Ministry of Education, there was a circular dated 8 July 2021, and it recommends that all schools, because with the new curriculum, the CBC curriculum, all children in the lower classes, that is in PP1, PP2, then classes grade 1 to 3, they will be subjected to indigenous and foreign languages. And the circular noted that each lesson, each week, there must be 2 lessons for teaching indigenous language. Not the way it used to be like in Garissa, our students would teach Kiswahili as the catchment area. But going forward, they are supposed to pick teachers who can speak the different languages, or teachers from different communities to go and teach those learners indigenous languages to enhance nationalism, patriotism, and national unity, and also cohesion. So maybe going forward, this is one of the recommendations you had in your paper, and it has been taken up. So we are waiting to see how it will be implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes, sir. You can give him a mic.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is David Onyango Danga from School of Education Arts. My question is, what measures are taken to ensure that the subgroups facing distinctions to continue surviving and to grow again? The subgroups which are facing distinctions, they are almost dying. and people will forget them. What measures are taken to ensure that they'll continue to survive? Thank you.
Another?
Dr. Butali.
First of all, let me thank you for that good presentation. Now, what is the impact of the young generation towards these indigenous languages? In many cases, we've seen the young generation trying to lean on what we call Sheng and forgetting their language. So the question is there an impact of the young generation on these indigenous languages?
Okay, I think I can respond to that. The first one was just an observation about a circular in line with the CBC recommending that, as I did say, that in lower classes, the lower primary, maybe grade 1 to 3, that the indigenous languages would be taught. I'm told that they would be subjected to indigenous and foreign languages. And you have talked of 2 lessons for teaching that. That is important. However, the challenge here lies in, you'll find some of these languages are not well documented. We don't have books that have been written. If I take the case of the Ilwana language, because we don't have actually books that have been written about it, so teaching that language without course materials would be a big challenge, meaning that research needs to be intensified in this area to ensure that we have wide, actually comprehensive documentation to ensure we have enough material, enough literature that can be taught in schools. Thank you for that, Madam. 2, about the measures taken to ensure that the subgroups do not die, they continue surviving. I think the subgroups here refers to those, the so-called the minority languages. And there are so many, and you realize when we studied history, let's say back in the elementary levels, maybe in secondary, actually, a case in point, I didn't hear any language called or a group called Malakote or Irwana for that matter, Munyoyaya. Until I came here to Garissa, that's when I'm hearing of so many of them, those minority groups. The measures to be taken, and as I recommend, is actually there should be funding to fund research, should be funded on these many minority languages in Tana River. And there could be even others, maybe within the entire Garissa, Wajir, and Mandera counties. So if research is done and these findings are made public, are documented, that is one way of ensuring that. We are talking of revitalization, language revitalization activities. This can be done through documentation, through the teaching of the languages in schools as recommended, and so on. That one will ensure that these languages don't die. You know, when a language dies, it means the culture of the people dies. A lot of innovation, a lot of information is lost, which will have been very essential in, for example, promoting innovation and sustainable development. 3, about the impact of the young generation towards indigenous languages. Is there an impact? Well, my study found out that the young generation here are not actually well versed. As I said, mostly they don't know how to read and write in Ilwana. See, that's one of the greatest challenges. They can only speak a little bit of Ilwana at home. And because there is also Ilwana is in competition like with Kiswahili. Kiswahili and the Ilwana, you know, are closely similar because the Ilwana language is close to the Swahili language. And therefore you find many do a lot of code switching, a lot of code mixing. So there is a greater impact about the vitality of this language, especially among the young generation, because they are not exposed to it, they are not taught this language in school, so they lack ability to read and write. So therefore, as you said, Sheng is also cropping in. So that is why we need a concerted effort should be made to ensure this language actually are used, are taught and used by both the young and other generations, not only within the family, even within the school setup and other social spheres. So that one is also one greatest challenge that these languages and many other minority languages are facing, not only in Tana River but elsewhere in other parts of the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I think we can applaud the presenter. Now the other presenter is I think is online, and her name is Savitha Wangare Wamboi and Alice Wangui Kamau. Now they are presenting on the their title of the paper is Adoption of Green Human Resource Management Practices in Achieving Sustainable Development Goals, a focus on institutions of higher learning in Kenya. I think they are doing it online.
Yes, can I present? Let me know whether you're able to see on your end. Are you able to see?
Tabitha Wangui, hello, how are you? We can see. Yeah, we can see. You have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to present and then 5 minutes for questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that's the topic, though it has a slight change. It's on achieving environmental sustainability. And this is an area that is flourishing. That is, green human resource management is an area that is flourishing. And actually, we are wondering whether it is being practiced in universities. And that was our focus for this study. I'll not really go into the meaning of the concepts, but picking some points from the concepts, you find that there are some elements of human resource management, because when we talk of lifestyles, when we talk of individual processes, when we talk of health, human health, all those are elements that we can relate to human resource management. So we're wondering why go green? There are so many concerns about environmental issues, and we gathered a study and we evidenced this with various statistics as we shown there. And this study, the findings were that pollution index in the country is at 70.5%, and then problems are projected to take effect even up to 2050. And these problems are actually associated to the lifestyle at personal and professional level. The lifestyle at place of work, at home, at personal and professional level. I'm really moving as I do know that the time will be so short. So what about universities? There is a creation, there is this network called Green University Network that was created for the purpose of promoting sustainability practices. And this is done through curricular development, community engagement, and student engagement. But there are various objectives that this network is supposed to achieve. And when we focus on the very first one, again, there are some elements of human resource management. Because when we talk of training, that is an aspect of HRM. When you talk of campus operations, definitely there are human resource management aspects in that regard. Student activities training is coming in there. And what about the outcomes of this network? Again, when you look at the expected outcomes of the Green University networks, again, you'll find that it's actually also touching so much of human resource management function, because when you talk of performance contracting, that is again an element in that. And all these cannot be achieved without human resource support. And when we talk of human resource support, we are actually looking at, we are talking about the GHRM practices and green behavior. The green behavior, these are habits that employees adopt to conserving water, efficient use of resources, waste reduction, saving energy, recycling, etc. Then when we talk of green human resource management, this involves actually the alignment of human resource. And we are talking about the recruitment and selection, we are talking about training, we talk about performance management, we talk of reward management and other human dimensions, which include culture, teamwork, and empowerment, which should be aligned to the environmental mission goals and goals of what? The organization. Then the other question that we focus on, why Green HRM, and I think I have answered that. Green human resource management will enable the creation of green workforce, and the green workforce, these are people who are understanding the green initiatives, the green objectives, and therefore can be implemented. Whatever is done in regards to environment can be implemented by people who are knowledgeable in green practices, or what we are calling initiatives. I want to skip and go to the specific functions of human resource management that are in line with the green concept, and the first one is green recruitment and selection practices. And what we mean, paperless recruitment. And when we go paperless recruitment, definitely these will have a minimal environmental impact, because one, you not print papers, you not use toners, which are regarded to have some negative impact in the environment. We are also talking about having adverts put in company websites. It's about selection, we do them online.
You have 5 minutes.
etc. We're also talking about selection, actually employing people who are sufficiently aware of greening to fill job vacancies. And that means we have to change the job description a bit to involve some elements of what? Environment or green. Then green training practices. When we talk of green practices, what do we do in regard to training? We go physical. For green training, there is an element of online training. Even in when we are teaching our students, we should go online. It's about materials for training, they should be online, meaning avoid.
Hello, Wangoi Tabitha. Excuse me? You have 5 minutes. If you can take us through the methodology and then through the results and discussion and then conclusions.
That is the other green HRM function, green management, performance management. We talk of green practices and green behavior is about what habits you have taken up in the places of work.
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I think that will be enough. Dr. Kamau, can I present, please?
Yes.
You can see that now the methodology. We decided to do some investigation or carry out some research, and we went to a few universities, Karatina, Kemachu, Moi, and Nairobi. And as you can see, we have the first generation university, the oldest, then the second generation that was chartered in 2013, and then the one that were chartered now the other day. So we tried to do practice the Green Hrm, and we were able, as you can see, those were the questions, and you can see there is some agreement, and those who are decided. So from there, that most of the Green adopted in institutions of higher learning that need improvement is the reduced use of paper during meetings, turning off the lights during the day, and make use of the light. And then the other habit management and selection practice, practice, some questions, and you can see they were agreed, disagreed, and those who are neutral. So we were able to conclude that majority agreed that institutions rely on digital modes and communication. The other elements indicated either people were not aware of green recruitment as indicated by the neutral, or the green recruitment was not taken. Then the other one was green training and awareness. You can see the question that we had. Majority there indicated that there is maintenance of environmental values. However, there is an indication that the institution not include the green concept courses, and also the employee are not trained on methods that can conserve and other resources. And then we had the green performance. Those were the questions, and you can see the answers that we got. So based on the finding, majority of the respondents were in agreement that they are comfortable and work in a conducive working .
Technician wing, technical wing. I think there's a technical challenge. I don't know. Oh, from the other side. So. In institutions of higher learning, the habit Do we move to another, because I'm seeing...
Sorry, she seems to have gone off. maybe I can go to the conclusion and say that we realize that the green habits have been adopted by the various institutions. However, the green human resource management are at slow pace, and especially the recruitment and selection and performance management, including the training, the green training. Training is still done physically, and with that kind of management or operations, definitely we may not realize the sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Tabitha Wangoi. Now let's have some maybe questions, maybe one or two questions to Tabitha. Yes, Dr. Butari, someone to give Dr. Butari, I think, a microphone. A mic. I don't know whether, she can be able to get that. The question. That's what I don't know.
Dr. That is Tabitha and Dr. Alice Kamau.
Yeah.
Can you be able to hear me? Hello? Can you be able to hear me? Huh? Hello? That is it? Is it? Yeah. Hello, Dr. Can you?
So my question, I'll just go straight to the question.
Now, what was the percentage of adoption of green human resource practices in achieving sustainable development goals in institutions of higher learning as you undertook your research? I was asking, what I'm asking was, in the process of your undertaking of your research, were you able to look at the percentage of adoption of the green human resource management practices in achieving sustainable development in institutions of higher learning? And if you did, what was the percentage?
I think you are breaking. I didn't get I only got percentage.
Okay.
Maybe, is it possible to write it?
What I was asking, can you be able to hear me?
Write the question. You can't get. Goodness.
Hello? Can you be able to hear me now? Hello? Okay. What was the percentage of adoption of green human resource management practices in achieving sustainable development goals in institutions of higher learning?
I think this is a challenge, a serious challenge, technical challenge. So what we do then, we can
Dr. Alice, can you hear us?
think. I think a technical. I think technical glitch has become a barrier, and Tavita, I think either Tavita or Alice.
Hello, I didn't get the question. Okay, about the adoption of Green Hrm per institution, we had some regression and doing some analysis in adoption for the green habits. For the others, especially the green recruitment and the green training and awareness, it was not. When it comes to performance management and employee engagement, again, it was said, it can be said that it was okay. It was, the percentage was at least above 50.
I think she's tried. I think we move, let's move to the next presenter. And I don't know whether we can move to, I was thinking of this online, we can move to those who are here, especially physical. Kuna Aden Ali Abdi. Then kuna Aden, I'm skipping those, the online, there are two online people. Maybe let me skip them. So we can, I call them. Oh. No, Aden, yeah, I was thinking of Aden because Aden is not here. And what of Sugwaja Mulianga? I think they are online. I don't have their numbers. Uh-huh.